I wrote this letter to my son about 10 years ago. And I read it the other day. I found it on my Google Drive the other day and reread it and thought about how things that we worry about sometimes never come to pass. Just a way to think about life. Dear Walt, we returned home Sunday night to find the dogs had been sprayed by a skunk. I don't know if a skunk has ever sprayed you, but a dog that has just been sprayed by a skunk has rubbed me. Red Hawk came in about a week before we left on our California-Oregon sojourn and rubbed against my bare leg. I had awoken and ran outside in my underwear to see what the commotion was. Ah, there's a picture. No? I felt a wetness, then a slight burning. The smell was the next sensation to arrive. Oh, the smell. There is nothing like it. At first, a hint of rotten onions. Next, a smell that's hard to describe but nearly brings me to my knees. Maureen is somewhat less sensitive to the skunk smell and always looks at me as if I were being overly dramatic. I am dramatic, but I'm also very sensitive to skunk smell. I believed that was what kept my Mormon ancestors safe from rabies on the trek to Zion and in the subsequent years living in skunk country. Skunks are interesting creatures. Most of my encounters with skunks before moving to Clark have been of the vehicular variety. There seem to be 3 skunks per raccoon dead in the road, also 3 raccoons per deer and 20 deer per antelope. In Colorado, I've seen dead elk, wapiti, on the road and have heard about wapiti crashes here in Wyoming with bad outcomes for both wapiti and humans. Moose are legendary for coming through windshields because of their long legs. But this is legend to me as I have of no one who's ever encountered a moose with a car. Bear are hit and killed in Yellowstone every year. This seems incredible because anyone who's ever been to Yellowstone knows that if a bear is spotted, there's an immediate traffic jam known locally as a bear jam. Pity the skunks, they are too slow. Skunks, as my research has shown, don't want to leave an area once they set up shop. When we first arrived in Clark, a family of skunks was living under a large piece of rusted metal beyond the lower pasture down by the stream. This metal was mysterious to me. It was about 10 feet long and 4 feet wide and crimped on one side so that it stood 6 inches off the ground and made a perfect skunk home. The dogs as puppies longed to get under the metal, but it was half an inch thick and very heavy so they couldn't dig at the edges. My internet search is quite a list of predators for skunks. Skunks are mainly prey to great horned owls, but also can be eaten by foxes, dogs, coyotes, hawks, badgers, bobcats, and eagles. On very rare occasions, wolves, mountain lions, bears, wolverines, alligators, crocodiles, minks, lynxes, and people. They're also hit and killed by cars. Of all these predators, we lack only alligators, crocodiles, and perhaps wolverines and minks. The rest are roaming nightly or seasonally on Bennett Creek. The most likely demise of our original skunk family was the great horned owl. When we first moved in, there were 3 living on the creek behind the house. I only rarely see an owl these days. The owl must have picked off the original skunk family slowly, and the last survivor was wounded and retreated under the mysterious metal plate to die. The smell of rotten skunk mixed with skunk smell wafted from under the plate for months. The puppies desperately desired to roll in that lovely concoction. A few years later, their wish was granted. A dead skunk carcass turned up out back, and Henry was rolling in it up to his ears. Which raised the question, why do we love dogs? This has been an ongoing question since that day. Our dogs, Henry and Belle, love to roll all things dead, rotted, and stinky. They're also shit-eaters. This is one of my refrains on our daily walks. Shit-eating dog! One of my refrains on our daily walks. Usually bellowed as they roll and look at me like, you don't know what you're missing. Red Hawk, on the other hand, has the manners or sense not to participate in these behaviors. However, she does go right after skunks. We were driving through Idaho on our way home last week, and at about Massacre Rock State Park, we decided to forego our trip to Jackson and cut up through Island Park in West Yellowstone to drive through the park and home before nightfall. We called our caretaker Alyssa. Alyssa is a godsend. Without Alyssa, we'd be more homebound than we are. She looks after the rancho and all the animals. Alyssa informed us that a skunk had sprayed the dogs a few days earlier. This would be the second spraying in less than a month. When we arrived home, sure enough, Henry and Red Hawk were both unwelcome in the house. Belly seemed okay at first, but after a few minutes, she was shown the door as well. It was less than joyful reunion. We were tired from our travels and thought we would deal with the dogs in the morning. Our de-skunking routine consists of Dr. Bronner's and the Clark's Fork River. We call Dr. Bronner's God soap because of the all, one, or none philosophy espoused on the bottle. I watched about half of the documentary on Dr. Bronner one time, and it was interesting, and I believe we're all one or none, and that soap is good for everything, but I draw the line at colonic cleansing. Usually it takes about 3 Dr. Bronner sessions to get rid of skunk aroma. Sunday morning in the river, the dogs got lathered up with God soap. Lots of stick chasing, swims to rinse, and they smell okay, but not great. We get home and the dogs dry out through the course of the day. I noticed a cut on Red Hawk's nose. She sometimes gets in small disputes with Belly. I didn't think much about it. In the afternoon, I met Henry in the laundry room, and he smelled strongly of skunk again. I think, that's weird. Did the skunk return? I look around under the trees in the garden to see if I can find the skunk lair, but nothing turns up. In the late afternoon, Henry and Belly both smell to high heaven, and Maureen says Belly is eating something dead. Early in the day, I had smelled the slight, sweet smell of death. Then I found the source. In the dog's enclosure lay a big, dead skunk, killed by the dogs. I got a shovel and removed the corpse. I laid it under a large rock out of the sun. I returned to the house and started to worry about rabies. Skunks are second only to raccoons as carriers of rabies. Thank God for the internet. I read that humans can contact rabies from the saliva of dogs and from off-gassing dead animals with rabies. Humans rarely survive rabies, and dogs with rabies have to be euthanized. A sleepless night follows, playing out all the scenarios. This morning, I took the dogs to the vet to get the rabies vaccine updated, and the skunk's head has been sent to the lab. We'll get the results on Thursday. The vet said that rabies is not really common in this part of Wyoming, so we're hopeful. In the meantime, we wait. Love, your rabbit, Dad? Dear Walt, we're forced to live our lives in uncertainty. As in most cases, there are no clear-cut answers to the big questions and the mundane. More to the point, the skunk's brain was too necrotic to sample. We don't know if the skunk was rabid or not. Our vet, Lyle, is one of the greatest vets in the world. He claims he stays calm in emergencies and is the source of inspiration to me. He came out when one of our llamas needed to be euthanized. He has always been there to provide care for the myriad animals. Lyle said he doesn't see a case of rabies from skunk and hasn't seen one for a while, so the odds are in our favor. We just have to wait and see. The vet tech said if the dogs start acting like they're on drugs or drunk, to bring them in. So far, they just seem lazy. I want to get this in the mail, so I'll end for now. Love, waiting patiently. Dad. There was no rabies. I worried for nothing.